I used to worry about using too much electricity. If one of my family members left their bedroom and forgot to turn off the air conditioning, I'd snap at them. What, you want the planet to cook extra fast? If I found lights left on overnight, I'd fume, reader. I was insufferable. In my defense, I'd been worrying about climate change ever since Jim Henson's 1988 landmark congressional testimony about it. With every cool blast of AC, I knew more carbon was being dumped into the atmosphere. So I turned into an energy miser. I'd go around the house turning lights off. If no one else were home, I'd leave the AC off entirely, even on blazingly hot days. But then, 3.5 years ago, something happened that changed my entire psychology around electricity. I installed solar panels on my house. I quickly found myself awash in more energy than I could use. The installers had predicted the panels would produce 100% of what my household needed. Since battery systems aren't yet legal in Brooklyn, New York, where I live, any surplus I generated during sunlight hours would get sold to the grid, and I buy energy back at night. But the installers underestimated. It turns out I generate a lot of net surplus. According to the smart meter that my utility installed, in a 24-hour period, my house frequently generates 25% more juice than I need, even on a hot summer day. On sunny spring and fall days, it'll crank out 50% more than I use. I'm saving about $2,000 a year, so I'll amortize the cost of the array in 7 years. Then the electricity is damn near free. It's had a fascinating effect on me. I've stopped worrying about electricity use, both economically and ethically. I no longer walk around finger-wagging at my family members. Want to blast the AC? Crank away. It's coming from the sun, and I can't use all that electricity even if I try. And I've tried. I've charged an electric bike, run multiple loads of laundry, had many computers and a game system and a TV going, and still those panels were kicking out a net surplus. I've idly thought of running a power strip out to the sidewalk with a sign saying free electricity, just to be the Johnny Appleseed of solar. In essence, I went from a feeling of scarcity to a sense of abundance, and it occurs to me that this is really an emotional shift we ought to foreground when we promote renewables. Right now, many people are doubtful about solar and wind, thanks in good part to fear and doubt messaging from Republicans and fossil fuel interests. Renewables are too often associated with privation and rationing, needing to be an efficient but miserable hippie instead of gunning the motor and having fun. Most people believe a clean energy future will require everyone to make do with less, as the inventor and energy thinker Saul Griffith points out in his book Electrify, an optimist's playbook for our clean energy future. Yet when I talked to other folks who'd put solar on their roofs, most had precisely the same epiphany I'd had. They realized they had way more juice than they expected. And it had the same emotional effect, going from feeling guilty and weird to devil may care. Consider the case of Christopher Coleman, a digital artist who teaches at the University of Denver. He uses massive amounts of power, sometimes running a computer full tilt for a day and a half to render a single piece of digital art. It really burns the GPU. My computer's going 24/7, he says. If he were relying solely on greenhouse gas producing sources, he'd feel unnerved by these energy demands. But his household's solar array is so productive it covers his entire outlay. We're much more lax and comfortable, he says. I polled my Twitter followers asking whether having residential solar panels had changed anyone's relationship to their energy use. The majority said it had given them a similar thrill of abundance, and many joked about blasting the air conditioning without a second thought.